Famous last words.
Andy, are we open? We started? We got all our board members present? Andy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes, go. You're going to go in a second here, Tom.
Is Peter here?
No.
Oh, we got a good crowd today.
Tom, do we only have 7 board members?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. Andy, how many board members are present?
Let's see. You have 6 or 5. Heidi's on the phone, so she'd be 6.
It shows Jim Cipriano as being on.
How about Peter? Peter Riley may not be on.
No,
I think Peter and Lou are the 2 not on.
right. So you've got a quorum, Tom.
Yeah, Lou is on a cruise somewhere, so I didn't expect him. And I thought Peter would be on, but all right, we'll get going. You recording, Andy? It says it is.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the September meeting of the Town of Verde Association. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd ask for approval of the July 24 meeting minutes. The record should note that we did not meet in August. Therefore, there are no August minutes. So could I have a motion to approve the July minutes?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion, changes, or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of the approval of the motion to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. President's comments. I have 3 subjects to cover. First is, you'll recall in late spring, we conducted a second food and beverage survey, and the survey has been completed. The results will be tabulated and circulated shortly, but I just want to give you an update and a preview of what we're going to doing here. The survey generally was, most of our residents continue to be satisfied or very satisfied with our food and beverage offerings and operations. However, we did slip in the negative direction on the areas that we're still having issues with. The executive committee has decided that it will appoint a new subcommittee of the board consisting of me, Susan Warzeka, Bill Reimer, and Jim Kriego. And we will work with the Food and Beverage Committee to tackle these remaining food and beverage issues. The new subcommittee has instructed Andy to develop a written attack plan. He's done so. It's about 10 pages long. And the new subcommittee, in conjunction with the Food and Beverage Committee, will work with Andy to monitor his performance of that work plan and watch for the hopeful improvements. As I say, this is just getting started. The new subcommittee will meet with the Food and Beverage Committee within the next 30 days. We'll then review the work plan that Andy's drafted, and we'll circulate it to the board and the community shortly after the October meeting, so you all have a chance to see it. There'll be full transparency, but we're just developing our plan, so bear with us, please. The next topic I want to cover is the Security Committee work. The Security Committee also conducted a survey. Over 770, I think it is, residents replied, so there was an excellent turnout. The general conclusion, and again, you're going to see the results in a written report later in the month or two. But the conclusion is our residents feel very safe and secure. They're also pretty keenly telling us they don't want to spend very much money on any major projects. So I want to thank Jim Cipriano, who chaired that committee from our board. He and his committee spent hours of work on the project. They've done a yeoman's job in collecting data, all of which will serve us in the future. That committee intends to develop a 5-year plan, and we'll be, again, working with that committee and more. Once their report is finalized and submitted to the board, as I said, we'll have full transparency and disclosure to the community on what's happening with the security plans. But for the time being, people feel safe and they don't want to spend very much money. So that's the message that the community has given us. The last thing I want to cover is an announcement of a new undertaking. You may know that many communities have a transfer assessment or a transfer fee that's imposed when a house or property or lot sells within the community. It's a great tool to develop funding for capital projects. The board of directors, the marketing committee, the finance committee, and the legal committee have been working on this concept, and we're going to roll out a written plan probably in the next 30 to 60 days on whether this is a prudent thing for Town of Verde to undertake. Typically, the buyer pays the transfer fee when the house closes, although we know it's a subject of negotiation between the buyer and the seller, and it becomes a part of the purchase price. We anticipate that with between 30 and 40 real estate transactions per year, this fee could generate anywhere from $200,000 to $225,000 a year. All of those monies would be deposited into a new capital account and a new reserve fund, and hopefully would be a source of funding to fund new projects in the future without having to go to the community for a large assessment. This project will require an amendment to the covenants, restrictions, and requirements of the community, the CC&Rs. It'll require a 2/3 vote of all 747 lots to create a quorum. And of that quorum, we need 51% voting yes to have the initiative pass. The same thing happened when we went to the community for authority to build the community park on the corner. So there'll be a lot of public relation messages coming out. As I said, marketing committee is on this, finance is on it, and legal committee will work on the draft. So please bear with us. But we think that this is a smart idea and a good plan for our community. The assessment or the transfer fee would have a couple of key carve-outs or exceptions. One would be if you're transferring your house or property to a trust or to your family as a part of a estate plan, there'd be no fee imposed on that kind of a transaction. The other one we're thinking about is if there's what's commonly known as the Tonto Shuffle, where you sell one property and move to another property, either upsizing or downsizing. Those would be excluded from the transfer fee. This is just starting to be developed. More will happen. It'll be on the board agenda in October for a formal vote as a first reading. And as I say, we'll be fully transparent. We do know that our competing communities, most of them have this fee, so it's not unusual, and we want to stay competitive. So that's it for the treasurer's report. If you have any questions or have stimulated any questions, hold them till residents' comments at the end of the agenda, and we'll be happy to take them up. With that, I'll pass the agenda to Tim for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Tom. I have a little lengthy report, so bear with me. FIKE has been extremely busy this summer. It's not a vacation time for us. It's really a lot of working, and we have worked on our charter to be consistent with our strategic action plan. We developed a audit task force charter with the help of Dick Dugan. He did a tremendous job here on it, and he is chairing our audit committee. Our audit is going to start in a couple of weeks of field work. With that in mind, I just like to report that we are paying Uncle Sam $52,000 in federal taxes and about $11,000 in state taxes. I want to say that is because of the tremendous interest that we have gained on our investments. And like one of my predecessors at my company always told me, it's not a sin to pay taxes because that means you're making money. So we owe about $60,000 plus in the next couple of weeks to Uncle Sam for taxes. We have that money and we'll pay it. Additionally, we've also worked on our 2024 work plan. I can report that I do not have June's numbers as of right now. I have a draft, but they aren't complete, they aren't correct. We have some adjustments to make in both the food and beverage and some other legal expenses. We have to shift those. Mike discovered that about a month ago, and we're going to correct the statements that we have, and I will disperse that and post the June numbers once we have them. I can say that right now, as it stands right now, operationally for the food and beverage, we're about $125,000 under budget. That's all in. That includes the restaurant and outside, but it's about $125,000 under budget. That being said, FIKE and food and beverage is committed to work together this fall to develop metrics and within our work plan to closely monitor the financial operations of the food and beverage. Additionally, FIKE and F&B will be looking at the operational model of the house to ensure that future operations are within budget. That being said, July's numbers, which I will post shortly after the meeting, the operational income is about $1,100 above budget. Operational expenses are $14,000 under budget, and the clubhouse expenses are about $600 under budget. F&B all in is about $24,000 under budget. Again, we need to correct that, and it speaks to the model of maybe lunches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So on the financial strength of the organization, we gained about $37,000 in working capital, which is always good. The member equity went up about $40,000, and we're in very, very, very strong financial shape as far as the balance sheet is concerned, with good investments, solid investments. Again, cash is going to be going out of the organization. Once we start paving the roads, that's going to be about $1.5 million. That's going to go out of our reserve funds. But again, we have significant funding for that. Well within the metrics that F&B has developed, we'll stay within that. I can report that we do have a long-term note now starting. We borrowed $168,000 in July to pay for the contractor's bill at the corner. Things are going well there. We're within budget on the corner, and I expect to be under the $1.8 million that we have committed from the bank to borrow. We're in great shape. We need to tweak a couple things, and F&B and FIKE is committed to work together to solve that. That's my report, Tom.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions of Tim by board members on the budget? Good report. As you heard Tim say, Finance Committee is watching food and beverage operations as well. We really have to pay attention to our deficit, and you may see some changes in operations, but let us work on that and develop a meaningful plan going forward. All right, let's move to the next item on the agenda is a 3-bid policy. Director Cipriano asked that we reconsider this. And I guess the concept is, should we always get 3 bids before we let any contract in order to be sure we're saving our money and managing our money as best we can? I recall when I came on the board, there is and was a 3-bid policy. Andy, I'd like to call on you to kind of give us a summary of what your operational approach to the 3-bid policy is, and then we'll open it to the board for discussion to see if we need any modifications. So Andy, will you please speak to that topic?
Sure. First of all, as I hope as the board knows, I'm going to share a file with you. This is something that was approved by the board back in 2020. I think you can see this. This is the policy on expenditures and capitalization. This outlines what I need to do for approval. Anything over $10,000. It talks about emergency funding as well of $25,000. But this is the policy that's in place that we work with. So if there's large expenses that I seek for either capital new items or reserve items, I come to both Tom and to either Scott. It was Scott, now it's Tim, and the chair of the fight committee to get approvals for these various expenditures. As we look back, I mean, as we go through purchasing things, if we look at the large expenses like we did the roads, we sent out an RFP to 8 different contractors. We received 3 back, and we selected the one that we thought would do the best job for us. Also with the same recommendation from Rio on that contractor. Items like insurance. We typically look at insurance every couple of years. This year, as requested by FIKE, we'll go out to different brokers, look for different pricing on different policies. Last year, you may remember we increased the D&O from $1 million to $2 million. So there was a slight increase there in insurance. If we have other planned items, each committee, typically House and Grounds, Diane did a good job with this last year with the expenditures we're gonna purchase for the community park. And I know her and her team went through and reviewed various quotes from different companies on various pieces that we're putting in place. So those were done. As we look at some of the other large projects, we certainly try to get as many bids as we can. We are somewhat limited based on location and quality contractors. The other piece that's somewhat problematic is if we have, let's say, a rooftop unit or a pump or something like that go out, or a plumbing repair that shuts the building down. Those typically are hard to get 3 bids to get that work done quickly. So I would also challenge the board and Tom and Tim and whoever as we purchase various things. I will do my best to get as many bids as we can on whatever that replacement piece is. So that's an update on that, Tom.
Thank you, Andy. I might add, in talking with Andy about this, we build a relationship with certain vendors, and rather than go get bids all the time, where you have a continuing relationship, we sometimes will err in favor of simply dealing with somebody we know and trust and have good experience with. So board members, or Jim Cipriano, let me call on you. You raised the question, is this a satisfactory explanation? I can tell you every time Andy spends above that for certain threshold, he calls, me and the treasurer, the president and the treasurer have to sign off on it. So there's that immediate check and balance. But Jim, go ahead and speak up if you would.
No, I'm fine with that, Tom. Thank you. The only question I would have is I don't want to be too restrictive to Andy, and if that $10,000 limit is a little bit low.
No, I think it's fine, Jim. Again, I think there needs to be questions back and forth from both the president and or the board. And typically what we try to do, or we should do, is we ratify those decisions at a board meeting anyway.
So I might add, the committee structure provides a very, very complete and thorough supervisory role over Andy. Andy doesn't do anything without committee involvement or board involvement or executive committee involvement. So we're watching very carefully how we spend the community's money. Any other board members want to be heard? Hearing none. Any residents want to speak to this topic? Forrest, go ahead.
So what brought up the question regarding 3 bids would be my starting point before I go into a couple other things.
I think the issue was we were looking at the insurance premiums and policies. And the question was, should we get 3 bids? Keep in mind, the broker always gets multiple carriers to submit bids. But I think the question is maybe we should be looking for a different broker as well. So that's how it came up.
Yep, and we had that in our business too. We changed brokers after 35 years, so. But my statement regarding three bids, it's never just the cheapest solution. I trust Andy has the support to be able to look at that. And if it's not the cheapest solution, do a justification, simple. Hey, we recommend the second guy, but they're second by $2,800. We recommend it because they've done all the work, they have the crews, they're responsive. There has to be the ability to not always say, let's get 8 bids. It's about quality, not quantity. And just be able to, between you now as the president and Andy, to be able to say, you know what, we recommend this guy because of this reason. He's got the qualified people, he's trained, he knows our facilities, and they respond every time. Okay? That would be my only recommendation, that there's the ability to not just always choose the cheapest solution. The most cost effective is different.
Thanks, Forrest.
Good comment. Thank you, Forrest. Anyone else? Seeing none, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is a proposed indemnification resolution. This would be a first reading if there is a motion. What we discovered is while our insurance policies cover our committee members and task force members of standing chartered committees, the board bylaws and resolutions do not specifically call that out, although the bylaws permit the board to draft a resolution to extend indemnification to committee members. What we're talking about here is if a committee member or a director or an officer or any agent of the company was sued for any reason, the corporation and its insurance policies would stand up and offer a defense and cover that person, assuming the person was acting in good faith and with the best interest of the organization when they were performing their duties as a committee member. So with that, and some of our, where this came up is a couple of committees, charters added indemnification, caused us to take a look at it. So I think it's prudent that we entertain a motion to offer indemnification to the fullest extent permitted by our corporate documents to all standing chartered committee members. Based on that, I'd like to entertain a motion to get it on the floor.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. Who made the motion?
Tim.
I did.
Okay, the board members are no longer on my screen, so
Tim,
let me see.
Tim made it.
Okay, Tim made the motion. Who made the second?
Tom, I'll second it.
Okay,
Jim Green.
Nancy, as long as you got that for the minutes, please. All right, let's have a discussion on this matter. First from board members.
I think it's a darn good idea.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Yeah,
You know, you're not gonna, you want service, you want the service of people, and you don't want them at some sort of exposure because they're helping us out. This is a volunteer organization. I see.
Tom, I agree with that. We've actually had on FIKE people say if we're not indemnified, we don't want to serve anymore.
There you go. Good point, Tim. Any other board members? Steve Hammond, are you on the call? I know the legal committee took a look at this. As chair, do you have a comment?
I am on, and yes, I think it is important that our volunteers, duly appointed and duly approved by the board, have indemnification. Tom, I would suggest that Lou, when he gets back from his cruise, looks at the indemnification provision in the legal committee's charter that was approved by the board a year ago, and probably use it almost verbatim on every charter. I think the real key here is we want to make sure that the board has approved who are actually committee members so that we don't have a resident, if you will, go rogue and then all of a sudden claim indemnification as a quote volunteer. So I think the language is important, but I fully support the idea of indemnification. And in fact, Tom, you may recall when I got involved in the legal committee, I said, I won't do it unless there's indemnification. And that's what prompted it in our charter.
Yeah, Steve, it's Susan. I appreciate your comments. I thought what we were trying to accomplish here, Tom, was to do this in such a way that it doesn't need to be spelled out in each individual charter, but rather we have something blanket that we're all assured of coverage.
May I respond to that, Susan?
Of
Go ahead,
course.
Steve.
The reason to do it in the charter, Susan, is that a charter is required of a committee. And it will remove any latent ambiguity, who is and is not covered. So it's really more of a, if you will, pro forma way of resolving upfront who's covered and who isn't covered. And once it's in the charter, it's pretty simple. That's the reason I would do it that way, to remove any ambiguity.
Yeah,
I can
don't
give an
think there's
example if you want, but Tom will defer. I think you're aware of one example.
I don't think there's any harm, Susan, in doing both. There'll be a board resolution upon the second reading in the October meeting, but then it gets kind of lost in the minutes. So, and then every year we approve committee charters and work plans. So I think it's a little bit of a double dip, but it's probably worthwhile.
Tom?
Yes, go ahead.
Steve, you made the comment of any, so there are no rogues, that committee members are approved. I believe that only the committee chairs are approved by the board and not the committee members.
That you make a great point, Jim. The board chair is approved by, I say the chair of the committee is approved by the board, and the chair of the committee appoints the members, and the members are listed, and therefore it's all contained within that package. The board approves the chair approves the members, and the charter then would apply to the members.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, good points. Anyone else? What we're going to do is table this motion because there'll be a second reading at the October meeting, but any other comments from anyone? Scott Fisk, go ahead.
Yeah, Lou wanted us to prepare our work plans and charters for board approval in October. If we're now going to add language subsequent to the board approval on indemnification, can we hold off on that till November? Or do you want us to include the language in our charters that are being submitted in October?
I think you can include it because today will be the first reading of the motion. We'll table the motion. It'll be voted on in October, so the committee charters can be activated at the same time the motion is approved.
Okay, then I would ask that whoever's in charge, if that's Lou or whatever, that he get that language out to the committee chairs so we include it in the charter and we don't have to do the double submission.
Yeah, I'll make a note to call Lou.
Thanks.
I think Lou's back in a couple days. All right, could I have a motion to table this motion to the October meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Kriego, second by Warzeka. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any nay votes? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Okay, next on the agenda is the road construction update and an engineering proposal. This will require a motion. Andy, will you present this, please?
I will. I'm going to start with the road part of it first and what's going to happen starting this Friday. I'm going to share a screen with you here. All can see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
This information has been sent out numerous times to the community, both in emails, and it's actually on easels, both in our office and also in the lobby area. Renovations will start this Friday with some milling up on the upper west side of the community. And as you'll see here, just kind of go through these bullets here real quick. Road work will begin at 6 a.m. and continue on till 6 p.m. daily. During the milling process, you can drive on the roadways. You will experience some delays. You can use your golf cart, you can use your car, but please watch out for trucks, milling machines and trucks and so on. You will be able to drive on these roadways for until they're paved. During the paving process, the roads will be closed for a period of 24 hours. So in that 24-hour period, those roads we've outlined will be closed during that 1 day of paving process. The paving will be done on each roadway in 1 day. It will be completed in one day. The reason for that is if they can't put it down in 2 days because it'll create a crack and seams in that roadway. So that's why they do it all in one day. Parking is allowed in the parking lot of the clubhouse. Also neighboring streets that are not being paved or milled. Please park on one side of the street to allow for emergency vehicles. Please pay attention to detour signs that will be out there on the 20th and the 24th near the entrances, because those people that want to go up on the north side of Town of Verde Drive will be restricted on those 2 days. And we'll have to go up around Aqua Verde and down to get to those western neighboring streets. Just be aware that beginning the 13th this Friday, both the entrance and exit gates on the west side will be open during the daytime. They will close after 6 p.m. This allows for trucks to come in and out. There'll be quite a few trucks coming in and out with all the millings that are coming off the roads. September 23rd, both the entrance and exit gates on the east side will be open during the day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On the 27th and 30th, please be aware that this is when they're going to mill and pave the exits for both the east and west sides. These gates will be open overnight, because you will have an entrance and an exit out of either the exit gate or the entrance gate to both the east and west sides. I've left my phone number on here for people to call me if they have any concerns at any time of the day. I will respond personally to that cell phone number that's there. Everybody's been given the detail here as far as the roadways that are going to be done, the anticipated days. The milling may continue on into other areas if time allows. It shouldn't be an issue. There's no closures, but the paving timelines will be as outlined. Now, if we receive any kind of weather that may delay some of this, large rains during the time when it's milled before it's paved, we may have to extend a period of time. We will certainly let you know. We will reach out and let you know if there's any kind of delays at any point. So those are the updates on the roads and when it's going to start and the process that goes along with it. Let me stop sharing this one. And let me go into the other requests that I have.
Andy, while you're doing that, can I just say something quick?
Go ahead.
To all the residents, these are big, heavy, loud machines that are going to be doing this. It's not. Please, safety is number one concern. There's a reason why contractor employees wear safety vests and hard hats for visibility and their own personal safety. Please stay away from these machines. Don't come up to the curb and watch these things. It's dangerous. Construction is a dangerous industry, and please stay away for your safety. I don't want anybody to trip and have an injury. I don't want employees to be hurt. Please stay away. Yeah, it's nice to walk, but walk from your garage.
Your roof.
I say that from experience.
Thank you, Tim. The next piece of this is I received a recommendation from Rio Verde, and what I'm sharing from you is a study or a project update that they use. They use an engineering firm to oversee their road project back in June. I received this report. It's about 275 pages long, and I submitted it to Tim, and I said, what do you think? Tim, being the contractor that he is, he also recommended that we take a look at this. So what I did is I reached out to the same engineering firm that produced this report that actually oversees both the laboratory testing for as far as compaction and also quality control testing. Basically what they do is they follow these contractors around during the milling process and the paving process to ensure that we're getting what we're paying for. So again, it's quite a lengthy report. It shows all the various grading. It shows various photos of subgrade and so on. And I would like to recommend that we use this firm to oversee our project. Again, we're spending about $1.2 million This engineering firm to oversee this is all in about $32,000. So this was a recommendation I'd like the board to review and hopefully approve.
Andy, will this engineering firm actually do some subsoil testing to make sure that the underground property is sufficient to withhold the road?
Absolutely. Tim, you probably could talk more to that than I can, but.
Sure. First of all, I highly recommend this for two reasons. First of all, it ensures the quality of the project. When you pave a road, it's not what you see, it's what's underneath the road that ensures a quality project. And when you're dealing with a subbase, that is the most important aspect of a road. The subbase is a gravel underneath the blacktop. And if you have a soft gravel base, and basically is due to water in the gravel, it will create problems shortly in the blacktop. It's going to create what we call alligator cracking. It'll develop into a pothole real quick. And so we want to make sure the base is compacted correctly to standards, what they call DOT standards. And so this engineer will monitor that and ensure that we have a quality project. It will also ensure that you can see a ruler right there measuring the depth of the asphalt. This engineer will ensure that the contractor is placing the correct depth of asphalt for us. Again, we want to make sure it's the 3 inches that we pay for. On the finance side, they are going to take measurements and give us the final, what we call as-built measurements to ensure that we pay for what we got, not that we overpay and the contractor overbills us. So it's $30,000 well spent. It's very common in what we call public works contracting, and I highly recommend it.
Just one more comment as we started the agenda earlier with a number of bids and so on. There are only 2 groups within the area that do this type of work. One is the other one was Nino and Moore that did our actually road study. That I think Tim and I had some questions as far as how they graded some of the roads. So this is the other engineering company out there that does this type of work.
Andy, you and Tim, you mentioned the sub base, the gravel and stuff like that. That's not part of the project we've got going right now, right? They're just going to grind off the existing asphalt and replace it. What happens if they find that the sub base is not sufficient?
Then they have to dig that out, remove it, and replace it with dry material and compact it in place. That'll be an extra. That's not included, but it has to be done, Jim.
Okay, well, I'm not arguing. I just wanted to understand because I did not understand it to be part of the project.
It's not, but if they find a soft spot in the base, they will remove it to a depth of probably 12 inches to sometimes even 24 inches and replace it with gravel, compact it, and get it to specification.
The machines will come in and they'll mill off 3 inches. They're going to take 3 inches off the top of the existing roadway, which may go down into some of the sub base. I think some of the core testing we saw in the past, some of the roadways out there are just 2 inches, or there's some areas that are even under 2 inches as far as thickness of pavement. So this is the first time this road's been removed since the developer put it down. So we don't know what the sub base is, and that's part of the reason we certainly want these engineers to be here and do their testing.
Will you
Any
take
other?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Please, Tom. A couple of questions. The real report noted a number of waterline fractures caused by either vibrations of the equipment or the equipment actually tearing off some heads. And then EPCOR was called. Who will be responsible for making that call if that happens here, Andy? The contractor, the consultant, or you?
A combination of, I guess. It's we would call EPCOR for our roads. Nobody else can contact EPCOR in regards to the roadways that the association owns. So we would have to contact EPCOR for that.
Okay. Second question is, it's been my experience with similar paving projects that subgrade utility lines, particularly water, are marked on the asphalt surface or on adjacent curbs with monuments of some kind. I presume that will be done in this case.
That's done this week, Jim. They're flagging all that stuff this week before they even touch and do any kind of milling.
Good. And the
That's
consultant,
Jim, that's a law that they have to call the underground utilities for location. That's a
Right.
law.
You'll see that the sewer rings will be lowered. You'll see some barricades around some sewer manhole covers. You'll see the marking on the streets for all the blue staking that's being done for all those lines. And that happens before they do any kind of milling at all.
good. And lastly, Tim, the consultant will also be doing some asphalt content testing, correct?
Correct.
All right.
For oil, for the correct mix, if you
Mix.
call it.
Yep.
Mix,
Yep. All right. Thank you.
We also ask that they pour black concrete instead of the regular gray concrete around these rings. So you're not going to see big white rings around the manholes.
Good.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
One
Hearing
other
none,
thing,
any?
Tom, one more thing I do want to say. I have a few members have reached out in regards to the roadways that weren't on the scheduled list. Just to let you know, all these other roadways are scheduled for what they call maintenance or seal coating next summer, including these roads that are being paved. Will all be seal coated next summer.
And Andy, aren't all the roads on a replacement schedule, maintenance schedule to be funded from reserves over the next several years?
Of course, there's some roadways that will also have to be milled and repaved as well. But just so everybody knows that all the roads will be seal coated next year. That's how it's outlined in the reserves.
Right.
I've got one more question, if I may, please.
Sure.
Andy, are there any provisions for EMT access on roads that are being worked on?
Of course, they'll all have emergency access. They will move cones. They will allow emergency access even while roads are being paved.
Gotcha. Great.
All right, residents, any comments on the road work and the engineering request?
Forrest has got his hand up, Tom.
Go ahead, Forrest.
Okay. Obviously, Mr. Tim, sorry, Tim, I'm going to give you a compliment. He's the guru of all this. So having him on our side is having the best doctor in the operating room. So Tim, I assume you guys got unit rates for any soft spots that may occur from them. So it's not a blank check. And then you guys will sign off on it. And then I would make sure that we have our maintenance group available too, if we have landscaping that's causing those soft spots. And I will caution you, Tim, you know what's going on over by my house. The as-built, the utility locator missed our sewer line by 34 feet. So if there is any excavating.
I deal with that every day.
Yep. Yep. So if there's any excavating, Tim, tell them to be very careful with the depth of it. Okay. EPCOR didn't keep very good as-built, safe to say.
Thank you, Forrest. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the retention of this engineering firm with a budget of, what is it, Andy, 35,000?
Yeah, 32,800.
$32,800. Bill?
I make the motion.
Second.
Motion for
Yeah,
Second,
just motion and a comment. I think just, this is essential to ensure accountability from both the contractor perspective and for the residents to make sure we get what, as Tim said, what we bargained for.
Perfect.
And the fee, and the reason I made the motion, the fee is reasonable in terms of what professional services charge, given the value of the contract and value of the total contract and the engineer's proposal, which is less than 3%.
Great. Is there a second to the motion?
second,
Second, motion by Bill Reimer, second by Susan Wozeka. Any further discussion from the board? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposing votes? Hearing none, the motion is unanimously carried. Thank you, Andy and Tim and everyone involved. Next, let's move to the general manager's report. Andy, walk us through your report.
And we'll do that. All right, everybody can see this?
Yes.
What I've got in front of you is a calendar. It's a community park update. Most of you have obviously driven by and seen the various things that have been happening and so on. This is the schedule for the next 2 weeks that'll be happening, and we're asking for these schedules now from the contractors to keep us up to date on a weekly basis now, so we can kind of let you know where things are. So they finished the sound wall, the big 10-foot sound wall around the park. They're finishing some stucco today, and then it should be completed as far as that large stucco wall. They've roughed in the building, the restroom building there, and I'll show you some photos here shortly. They'll start on the electrical and plumbing this week on that building. They'll be installing fencing and gates this week. Elite Courts is out there. They finished 3 courts, as you probably know. We're going to pour the second pour on the 17th of September. They're prepping right now with the cabling and the forms and so on right now. That's what they're working on. That's what they're working on until this next week here when they actually pour this. You'll see that they'll also do they're also going to install the meter for the electrical. They did pull all the wires, so that's in. So there'll be power there this week. They did finish their site inspection, so that's complete. They will start installing the roof on top of the restroom building next week as well. So that's kind of the schedule 2 week ahead look for the park area. You'll see here that as I stated, the first half of that pickleball court has been poured. This is the second half. Over here, this is what it looks like right now. These are the various cables you'll see coming in and out of the concrete, which is really an interesting process. I didn't realize that's how they poured those things or how they pulled them. So the final pour will be, like I said, the evening of September 17th, or the early morning hours of September 17th. For those of you that may be impacted by noise or the construction, please contact me and we'll look at some accommodations elsewhere for you. I did have one group that did ask for some accommodations last time, and I didn't hear any other concerns or problems with the last pour. So please be aware of that. This is the wall that fronts Forest Road. This is where you'll see the community park sign on this corner here. This is Forest Road is out here. That's what it'll look like. It'll be that's not the color. The color will be the same as what we call sand pit, which is the same color of the clubhouse. This is the side view of the restroom structure. This is the roof and framing area. This is all the golf cart parking is out in this area here. This is the other wall. This is that Forest Road wall. This is what comes up to the gate here. This is where the gate will come across and close off that area. This is another side view or this is the back view from looking from the pickleball courts back into the restroom building. And this is the 3 courts that have been completed. And this is the roadway stuff we talked about already, so you don't need to go there. Just a kind of an update on our POS system. Town of Verde Association will be transitioning into a new POS platform in October. Jonas is the system. It's widely used across the country in many clubs. It offers up-to-date features for both front of house servers as well as our members. Changes that you will see will be you'll see our servers using handheld devices when they're taking your orders, which will obviously decrease the ordering time and for both food and beverages. Members are going to see a slight change in the dining reservation model. Most of you are familiar with Open Table. It will look similar to that. It'll still be available on your 4Ts app as it is now. You'll see a different type of screen that you're making reservations, and it should be easier even for you to make those reservations using this module. The other thing that you will see as a member, you'll be able to do a little better job of seeing your daily member charges with greater detail. Our target date for going live with this is October 15th. As we get closer to those dates, you'll be receiving detailed communication on the new system, what it looks like, and even some live training options for members so they don't have any difficulties using this system. And then last but least, want to announce our Shining Star Award to Misty. Misty's been here since February of 22. She started out as a server. She's a very dedicated gal. She was promoted to our dining room manager. Again, that role is to help Chris Blazer ensure that the tables are getting serviced properly, making sure that timing is done. So we look forward to her help with supervision up there. So that's what I have, Tom.
Thank you. I have a question for you on the corner park. Has the contractor giving us a delivery date, a turnover date?
The delivery date for us is that third week in October. Depending on if there's any delays, I mean, we could see November 1, but I would assume from their scheduling, they're telling us that third week in October.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have questions of Andy? All right, residents, here's your chance to ask questions on anything we've discussed today, anything in Andy's report, or anything else that's on your mind. So if you want to be recognized, raise your hand or speak up and we'll call on you to take your question and try to get you answered. So who wants to be heard?
Tom, there's a question in the chat room from Dan about the warranty period on the roads.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'll open the chat room. What is the warrant? Okay, Andy or Tim, what's the warranty period for the road work?
I'd have to look at the contract.
Let's look at the contract again.
Typically, it's a 1 year, maybe a 2 year.
So Dan will look it up, but it's either 1 year or 2 year. We'll look while we're taking other questions.
It's a 2 year.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it's a 2 year on materials, labor, and workmanship is what that is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that
Can
answers that question.
you hear me, Eric Schmidt?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I have a question and also a comment. First question, what is the TVA policy with respect to political signs as we enter this election year? I've already had a couple of them in my homeowners association over here. I'm the president of Unit 9, and I don't want to be overstepping my bounds, but from my standpoint, we don't feel like we want these things to be popping up over here. But what's the TVA policy on it?
It's not really a TVA policy, Eric. It's a state statute that you have to allow certain political signs up to a certain size. And if you'd like, I can forward you the statute, but they are allowed. The other thing that is allowed, is to be aware that if you've registered for a certain party, they can knock on your door. It's something that is allowed by state statutes.
Okay, is there a size of these signs that is restricted, or is it any size, and how far from the street and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, let me pull the statute up, Eric, and get it to you. I believe it's 2 by 3. I don't believe there's any restrictions as far as where it's located, but they believe they have to have owner approval to place it in your yard.
So from a homeowner's standpoint, association, we have to allow this. And how about policing of it? How soon do they have to be removed after the election?
Yeah, there's certain dates there also in the statute that requires when they must be removed. I think it's within 2 weeks after the election, I believe.
Okay. I think it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Andy?
Tim, go ahead, Tim.
According to our design review standards, political yard and lawn signs are permitted to be displayed in front yards no earlier than 71 days prior to election day and must be removed 3 days after an election day and may not exceed 24 by 18 inches in size.
There you go.
Where'd you find that? Where'd you find that, Tim?
It's in our,
Page 11 of page 10 and 11 of your design review standards.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, my second comment has to do with the proposal that you talked about, possibly adding a transfer fee to properties that are sold in Tonto Verde. Our board has begun discussions in that area. I also now know that there is a transfer fee already imposed by the Advantage Accounting to cover their costs for changing the records and informing the TVA office, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure how much it is. It may be $200 a lot. And I've been told and understand that to be somewhat to subsidize a lower cost of accounting services to us for the services that they provide on an annual basis, as well as monthly financial reports to us as a homeowners association. What I'm wondering is if you guys are going to contemplate doing this. We have 4 homeowners associations here in Tanto Verde that represents 196 homes, give or take 1 or 2, I think. Would it not be wise to include the presidents or the treasurers of each of these associations in your discussions so we all know what direction we can or can't take or what you're going to do? We look at it as a way in which to increase our capital reserves, just like you do. And our responsibility as homeowners associations is to paint exterior painting of our homes, which we have to reserve capital for. And we're all doing that at some level. And we're faced with a pretty expensive project here when we paint 53 homes in Unit 9. So, we thought that a transfer fee would be appropriate to help subsidize that cost. Those fees would all go into our capital fund for the painting project. So how does that all affect you? Would you think this is a good idea, or do we not discuss this, or do we not all do it together, or what?
Eric, I've made a note that we will include the presidents of the sub-associations in our meetings and discussions. I didn't realize you were considering a second transfer fee within your organizations. You certainly have a right to do that. We are now collecting, as we collect our annual assessment, funds that go into the reserve account for painting of the common area building, the community clubhouse and the like, just like you are doing for your buildings. So I don't think there's any duplication, but it's a good idea to include your groups because it's a great way to reach 196 more people directly. So I made a note. Yes, we'll do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments? Jay Kernan, call on you.
Hey guys, good morning. So I want to comment on this proposed or potential real estate transfer fee as well. I mean, I don't know all the details of your needs, and I'm not planning on selling. So theoretically, I don't have a dog in the hunt, but I have strong reservations with respect to this possible program, unless perhaps it is made a prospective program applicable to those who buy after its implementation. Here's why. I mean, I think that if we need to raise money for capital projects, we should designate and estimate the cost of those things and establish our current assessments to cover those projects. I think a real estate transfer fee scheme is both an unpredictable cash flow and it's unfair to those who may be forced to sell because of health, family, other reasons, and cause them to disproportionately fund future capital projects. And I think it very possibly generates a fund that will be that could be arbitrarily allocated to projects that are undertaken completely at the discretion of future boards. So just to summarize, we need to plan prudently, assess appropriately, and then either reallocate or special assess for emergencies or unplanned needs. That's just my personal feeling on that.
Thank you for your comment, Jay. We'll take it under advisement. Mike Moore. Unmute, Mike.
Okay, I think I did it. Yeah, I would just say, of course, I have a dog in this fight, but there's not very many communities that have a transfer fee. The only one I know of around here is Trilogy. That most of them don't have it. So, and of course, who's going to pay it is going to depend on real estate market conditions when you are ready to sell. If conditions are good for the seller, then the seller probably doesn't pay it. If they're not, then the seller probably does pay it if they want to get their house sold.
All right, thank you, Mike. Comments are noted. Anybody else? Andy, you see anybody? Forrest, go ahead.
So I have a question. I don't know if I heard this right. Did I hear you said there's probably 30 transfers a year? And you're thinking you can get 200 or 225,000 a year? In those
That's
transfers?
correct. The marketing committee has identified between 30 and 40 real estate transactions in Tano per year on average for the last 10 years. There's discussion with no decision yet about how much the fee would be. The current recommendation or thinking is it would be equal to the annual assessment, roughly $4,900 to $5,000. So if you had 40 transactions at $5,000, that's how I got the $200,000 number for us.
Okay.
And then over 5 or 6 or 8 years, you build up $1 million, $1.5 million fund, which would defer the need, back to Jay Kernan, for a community-wide assessment for something, because we built this new capital fund.
I have a hard time supporting it because you have to prove what the transfer fee, other than trying to fill the coffers like Jay said. I mean, a transfer fee means we were impacted by it. So we'll see what you guys bring forward though. That's just my thought.
Yeah, wait for the messaging. I can tell you, Rio Verde did this 2 or 3 years ago and it did not pass. It was voted down. So it's not a slam dunk. We got our work to do. We think there's pros and cons and we'll lay it all out for you. Community will decide. Tim, were you going to say something, Tim?
I'm gonna defer my comments out. That question will be answered in our
Yeah,
documents that we
let
send out.
us do our homework and do a professional presentation for you. Anybody else want to be heard? I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Bruce Ellis.
Yes, Bruce.
Donna and I came from a club that did exactly this. And another way to look at this is that the buyer is investing in the equity that the club has. And so rather than them coming in and getting a share of that equity as a member owner, they're investing in it and they're taking that burden off of somebody else that is leaving the community. In our club in New Mexico, granted, there was a little bit of difference in the fact that we were a land ownership. In other words, every time you bought a lot, you were a member of the club automatically, and there was no separation between golf and the association. Our equity grown tremendously because we had continued to invest. We had invested in additional golf courses. We had invested in additional amenities, such as another clubhouse, parts, barns, all those kind of things that led to the club experience. There's costs involved in that, but members were gaining equity over a period of time. For us at our club, it created almost $1.5 million of investable or improvements in the facilities annually. So it was significant. But again, a different spin is not that it's creating a pot of money for the board to decide what to use. It was the buyer investing in the equity of the club and paying a share of what that equity was valued at.
Thank you, Bruce. That, to Bruce's points, that is exactly why the board voted to borrow money for the community park so that future residents had a little skin in the game, and we're making some economic financial contribution to the benefits they will enjoy while they continue their lives in Tano while the older guard is moving on. So lots of pros and cons. We'll work it up for you. Anyone else want to be heard? Andy, I don't see anyone scanning here, scrolling.
Nope, I
No.
don't.
All right, we have 2 matters to take up in the closed session regarding potential legal matters. So we're going to adjourn to the closed session pursuant to the Arizona statute. We'll come back out for purpose of discussing anything, any action taken. I don't anticipate there will be any action taken. These are more reports to the board, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. So you're welcome to stick around, but you probably have better things to do. So with that, thank you everyone for your participation. Good questions. We've got some work to do on the board level, so we'll be sending out some information over the next 30 to 60 days. So stay tuned and watch for your emails. Thanks, everyone. Let's take a 2-minute break and then we'll go to closed session.
We should. All right. The meeting is back in progress. We covered the 2 topics we had. No decisions, no actions were taken. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Support.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good job, Susan.
Good job,
Great.
Susan. You'll be a good president. See ya.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everyone.
See you, everybody.